Oh,
I forgot to start all of our recordings and everything. So give me just a moment.
then I'll sound smarter. Oh, I would rather look at that.
Of course you would.
I know.
Let's see here.
Will someone be ready to make a motion when prompted? But not yet.
Okay, I believe we're good to go. So if we could just a real quick start over, we'll just call the meeting to order again and then go to the minutes. So.
Okay, well, we're going to call the meeting to order again. Hello, everyone. We are going to move straight to the approval of the June minutes. There they are. Once again, beautiful. Since you've all had a chance, I hope to have read them.
I move to accept the minutes as provided.
Thank you, Kate Coleman.
I'll second it. Steve Campbell.
Thank you, Steve. Any discussion, corrections? All in favor? Aye or a hand?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Looks good. Okay. Well, I don't care if you're against it. Okay. So we're going to talk about the KPAC quote now. Would you like me to explain that since my initials are by it?
Sure, if you're comfortable doing that, that would be fine.
I'm comfortable doing many things, Steve. All right. The KPAC quote is Equinox has created a kids pack for us. And we're excited about it, an evergreen children's component. And we're actually very, very excited about that. You're going to be able to customize it with your logo, your colors, different menu links. And the actual cost will be $4,600. And is that for all of us to share?
That is correct.
Correct. Which I think is pretty minimal considering how many members we have. I think it's going to be heavily used. I believe we have West Plains to thank for this creation. So thank you, Greg. Is there any discussion or questions about it before we move to accept this? Okay, well, hearing none, I would like to have someone move to accept it.
Sue Lightfoot-Horine, move to accept the KPAC.
Wonderful.
I'll second. This is Jackie Hawes.
Thank you, Jackie. Last chance for discussion, concern. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you. It's actually very exciting. I can't wait to see it. Exciting. All right.
You're going to love it.
I bet we are. Thank you. Okay. The recommendations to the membership to adopt the 24-25 budget goes. Shannon.
Oh, perfect. Let me see if I can share. Oh, it's on the screen. Perfect. Okay. So the 2024-2025 budget that came out in your meeting packet is significantly different from previous years. One of the first changes on those first couple of pages is a budget narrative. And that budget narrative kind of does some highlights of the main impacts to the budget and the financial status of Missouri Evergreen for the current fiscal year. So closing out on August 31, 2024. And then it talks about some budgetary changes or upcoming highlights for the fiscal year 2025, which will start September 1st. I hope everyone had a chance to kind of read through those. One of the things we've talked about in our previous meeting that you'll see a change to your Missouri Evergreen membership fee. because that will have the approved 2% increase to the base fee of that increases it to $903. Later in the budget, we'll talk a little bit more in depth, but what we're trying to do is transition from the current 1099 contract employees to a true, not contract, I should say contract services to true Missouri Evergreen employees. There's a couple of reasons for this. One being most consortium our size, we're now at 77, 78 members. Most consortia of this size have 3 to 5 staff members to help manage the consortia. We've been doing that with contract services that has allowed us to have paid support for the consortia without the need to take on payroll activity, payroll expenses, but that has some limitations. One of them being that we can't provide support to those individuals like we could if they were our employees. And I'll give an example of that. Liz, our cataloger, we cannot provide mileage to her. So when she's going around the state providing these regional cataloging trainings or sitting in any, if she's on working with any of the new migrating libraries and needs to be on site, we cannot reimburse her for mileage. There's a series of tests that you have to do with the IRS to say whether they're an employee or contracted contract services. And mileage is one of those tests that if we pay mileage, that person is an employee. Obviously, if they're an employee, we have to pay payroll taxes. And so that really changes how we function as a consortia. We also can't provide equipment to contract services, contract labor. We have to, if we are providing equipment, so laptops, printers, scanners, any of those things, that fails the test of contract services, and that makes that person an actual employee of the organization. Because of all of these reasons, we feel like it's time to transition Liz from a contract services cataloger to a Missouri Evergreen Consortium cataloger, a formal employee. And that does have an impact on the budget. And you'll see that we've added some budget lines to help cover that change. Things like payroll processing and HR, payroll taxes, etc. So you'll see that a little bit later in the budget. The other main thing that we have changed, or that we hope to change this year, is an increase to Equinox hosting and support. I know that a lot of you have experienced some unreliable, your patrons are having unreliable experiences with SMS notifications. And part of that is that we are using SMS through Missouri Evergreen through, it sends it via email. And those cell phone providers or those cell phone carriers are blocking those messages or not allowing those messages to come through because of how that message is originating. And so Equinox has a solution for that, and that will increase our annual hosting and support fee in order for them to take on that additional work for the consortium. They'll also take on managing a few other things for us, the DNS, our domain name server, and SSL. I think that's Secure Socket Layer Certificate. And that's what that does, is gives us a little continuity there. We've been doing that with either the chair managing it or the director managing it. And sometimes those actions or that knowledge, there's a gap in what we can do. If the chair changes, the director changes, there's no continuity in making sure that the DNS and SSL action, those steps are taken to make sure that those pieces are completed each year. And then one day we'll wake up and we're not able to get to the catalog because we haven't paid our SSL certificate, or we haven't put in the new SSL certificate key on the server. So we're switching that up, and we're asking Equinox to take on that service for the consortium. There's several other things through here that it touches on, but I just wanted to touch on those things, to highlight those 3 things as some of our major things, or some of the major changes in the budget. If you look at the budget sheet, the balance sheet, excuse me. This balance sheet is as of June 2024. Amigos did send out updated financials as of July 2024, we've earned about $1,054 in interest from our Fidelity investment. We put $50,000 into a money market account, which makes it highly liquid, but it's earning 5% interest. We'll see if we increase that investment at the end of this fiscal year based on how we end the year. Right now, we have about $275,000 in equity. So that would be cash on hand, money in the money market, and the investment in the money market account. And then other than that, if we can go to the budget real quick. First, can I stop and ask if anyone has any questions about that budget narrative? Anything about last year or what's coming up on the horizon for this year? No one? Perfect. I like that. Okay. The main changes you'll see this year in the FY 2025 budget, first you see a big jump in the Missouri Evergreen membership fees revenue line. And that's just based on new membership, migrating members. We'll have MLC will be coming online. And so we'll have those new members paying into the consortium. That's where you're seeing that big change in revenue. The upcoming LSTA grant has already been committed for FY 2025. It's being funded at almost the exact same amount it was funded in FY 2024. And if you go a little bit down on expenses, you'll see those added lines there at 5650 wages, payroll processing, Social Security. So you see where we've added those expenses in to make that transition from contract services to employee status. That's the biggest changes in the budget. Other than in previous years, we've always presented a budget that had a net positive revenue position at the end of the year. So if you look at FY 2024, that approved budget showed a net positive revenue position of $27,000. This year, because we've been managing our own finances as a consortia since about 2019 when we separated from services from Mobius. Prior to that, Mobius managed Missouri Evergreen's finances. That puts us about 5 or 6 years into managing our own budget, managing our own funds. We're really getting a feel for revenues and expenses and what it takes to make this consortium function and function successfully. So we think we're at a place where we can start doing a balanced budget approach to running the consortia each year. So you'll see that net revenue line for this year, the proposed budget has it at $0. So all the revenue that comes in FY 2025, we're going to invest that back into adding new services, growing the Missouri Evergreen User Conference based on feedback we got from those that attended this year, adding more services to Missouri Evergreen like a kids OPAC and an Aspen Discovery Layer and improved SMS message notifications. So all of that's going right back into the development of Missouri Evergreen and what we can provide to our, and an update to the app that will allow for push notifications through the app. So all of those monies that we're all paying and investing into this system will go directly into offering more services or improving the systems that we have in place. And that's why you see that net revenue $0 balanced budget proposal. Steve, is there anything that you'd like to highlight that I missed touching on?
Oh, Shannon, you did a great job. I mean, so
Okay.
Two things. One thing that I'll do is whatever ends up happening, once the budget is approved, I'll actually update the balance sheet to show end of year, an end of year balance sheet. Once there is an end of year, so everything's sort of up to date, but that's kind of a moving target, and that was the best way to do it. The other thing to kind of show you is that let me give you a couple of examples. So for example, when you look at the contingency, last year we budgeted at $200, and for some reason it's just repainting right now. There we go. For some reason, we budgeted 200, and then this year we're budgeting at 10,000. And so that's where some of that money, I mean, if you look closely, you can see in the budget where the previous net revenue numbers are actually showing up as potential expenditures. This is what we intend to spend the money on, is kind of the idea, as opposed to this is what we intend to have as a surplus. all of those program expenses, I think that's generally true. Well, no, it's also true of the operating expenses, but all program and operating expenses are things that either are specifically said by the board, you know, pay, pay the contractors, you know, pay Equinox. I mean, that's just sort of on autopilot. And all of those invoices, as they come through, they go to Shannon. Shannon approves them before they go through. And in terms of program expenses, things like miscellaneous contingency, app development and all that, even though the proposal is that this is how the money would be spent, it won't be spent until there's action and there are invoices that are approved. Point I'm trying to make is you are not writing a blank $450,000 check. There is still a lot of checks in place, even though it's a zero balance budget. And so I hope that helps to clarify.
One other thing I'll add to that I probably should have mentioned when we talked about transitioning from contractors to employees. When we made this step to take on contractors about 2.5, 3 years ago, the consortium wasn't in a position to take on employees, and that we didn't have systems in place to take on payroll on our own. It wasn't a function that Amigos provided to their clients. And so we just knew at that time the fastest way for us to get some assistance, to get some support and provide some stability and sustainability to Missouri Evergreen was to add those positions as contract positions. In the past year, Steve's done quite a bit of research on companies that provide payroll and HR services, and he was able to find one that would take on the entirety of that function at an affordable price. And that's why we were able to go ahead and make that move at this time, separate from when we attempted to take on employees about 3 years ago. So I just wanted to make a statement about why now's the time to do that and why we didn't do that when we first started taking opening these positions. We also, just to make it pretty clear right now, we have 3 contracted positions. Steve Potter is the executive director, Liz as contract cataloger, and Mary Kay Emmerich serves as the contract migration specialist. So she works closely with Equinox and incoming libraries to help them throughout the migration process. Most of her fees are paid with the library automation grant from those incoming libraries. She is also working with the consortium to do refresher training with the CAN committee, and any action that she takes on in that role is paid directly by Missouri Evergreen. So just kind of giving some further information about what those 3 roles are, what we're paying for, who they are, what they do. And so right now, the only position we're talking about changing from contract to employee would be Liz's position. And that allows her not to have to pay out of pocket to travel to all the Missouri Evergreen things that we'd like for her to do, be it the users conference, be it regional training, be on site for refresher training or for training for incoming libraries. Right now, she has to pay for all of that out of her own pocket because we cannot reimburse her as because she's not an employee. And if we start doing that, then we're going to break IRS law. Is it law, IRS code? I don't know if that's law, whatever that is that the IRS has. Rules. Okay, we'll entertain questions.
And remember, this comes as a recommendation from the executive board, so no second is required. Carrie, you can entertain some discussion and then take a vote.
I'm entertaining now.
I'll make the motion. Jake Johnson, Web City.
Thank you, Jake.
There is a question. Let's go ahead. Well, it's already a motion, so it's just a matter of question.
Yeah.
Campbell in the chat, Steve Campbell's asking if there's a plan to move me to payroll. The answer in this fiscal year is no. There is not a plan to do that this fiscal year. That would be something that we might talk about next fiscal year.
Anyone else? And before we vote, I want to thank Steve and Shannon for all the work they did on this budget. This was an amazing presentation this year and a lot of work went in on it. So thank you guys. It was fantastic. So, okay. Since we've had the motion, time to vote, correct?
Mhm.
All right. So all in favor of accepting the, to adopt the budget?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Chat now. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Now we come to something called other activities.
Just put it on there in case there are some that came up, but I know
Okay.
of no additional ones. So
Mary, this
Wonderful.
is where you're supposed to do jumping jacks.
Oh, once I get this moving, it doesn't stop. So we just won't do that. All right. Let's go to current migrations.
just a couple of real quick updates. As you know, Sarcoxy went live about a month ago. They turned on resource sharing and had a little bit of a hiccup with the courier.
Yeah.
No surprise. I mean, people know we have hiccups with the courier, but Jane, actually, Teresa told me and Janet about it. Janet from the state library got right on top of it, made sure that all the communications were, where we needed to be. Has Teresa talking with Katrina from Mala, and I think we're getting everything squared away. But just bumps in the road. I think some of you may know or may remember that Sarcoxy didn't have courier. So they weren't doing ILL, they weren't doing OCLC ILL, they weren't doing Mala ILL. So this is all brand new to them. And so it's understandable why there may be some bumps in the road. But Teresa and her team and Billy that's there, they are just pros. They're just doing great. In fact, frankly, much better than I would have expected given where they started from. So all good news at Sarcoxy. In terms of the Municipal Library Consortium, rolling along great. Heather Arnold, who is sort of their point person, is making sure all the cats are lined up and everything is herding the cats, and she's doing a great job with that. Like any complex migration, there are issues, but we're getting them worked through. Feels like Municipal Library Consortium's right on target and will be fine. Going in parallel, although not really kicking off yet, is the Aspen migration for the 6 additional pilot libraries, and that will be coming soon. But yeah, the MLC is still on target to go live on October the 17th, and then the Aspen will come sometime shortly thereafter for the other 6. And by shortly thereafter, I do mean shortly. I don't mean like into December or anything. I mean later in October, early November. Let's see. In terms of membership, I think our number is still 76. I need to go back and double check. Still have queries from other libraries from time to time, but right now the other libraries we're hearing from either have barcode issues or we have capacity issues. So we don't have anybody lined up to come on after MLC right now, but that's okay. We certainly have enough going on. I believe that may be it. Should mention that with the approval of the budget and with the approval of the budget, I'm going to I'm going to get the quote signed and start working on Message B. And according to Felicia and the people at Equinox, Message B should be up and running for everybody mid-October or so. So that's that's kind of migration. So I kind of report it there as well. Let's see, there was a question from Greg. This may be a dumb question, but when talking accounts to Mala, will there be a time to that a report is selected in Equinox that may be standard? I think I get that, Greg, and I think in terms of reporting and reports, I will always yield to Tony and in this case to Mala to better answer that question. Steve, you wanted me to mention the MLA present. Oh, Mary Kay wanted me to mention the MALA presentation. So yeah, Mary Kay and I are doing a presentation at MLA about succession planning, which of course that's part of our MOU. Our MOU asks people to put together a succession plan, but we're going to be doing a program, which is hopefully going to be helpful, not just for our membership, but for the larger membership, and you know, part of a strategy to show larger value to the consortium, from the consortium to the entire library community. So all good things. Yeah, what Greg was clarifying is that Tony's report has been very, very good, and that's what I keep hearing. Tony's report on routing materials is capturing what you might expect to be captured. So all good news, but again, I'll yield to Tony and Mala to talk more about that. Question about message B. Do we know what notifications message B will make? Not exactly. More to come on that. I'm going to stop talking. Go ahead.
So Steve, I'll just chime in and say, the CERC committee is not yet recommending that you rely on Tony's report. We're asking that you would still maintain doing the hand count until we've gone several months, probably to the end of the year. We've got several libraries who are testing it to see how close they are to what our actual counts are. But if you would just hold off on using that as your answer to what your courier stats are until we have adequately tested it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We are moving on to the financial report from Shannon and Kristen.
Okay, well, good morning again. If I can, do you have that financial? Perfect. Give me just 1 second. This report Amigo sent just last week. It is the, yeah, we'll do the financials. The Missouri Evergreen financials as of July 31. And you'll see that we have a current cash on hand balance of $261,000. And that's where you'll see the Fidelity investment with the interest that's been earned thus far this year. I wanted to explain the development fund. I may have explained this in previous meetings, but I can't remember. You'll see the line that says development fund under equity. It's $17,294. That's the $15,000 that we've committed to the development fund over the past couple of fiscal years. And it's also the $2,294 that Scenic Regional transferred over to Missouri Evergreen that was committed to Missouri Evergreen app updates or development opportunities. And so when you see that equity line broken down from that $261,000 cash on hand between the first line being the members' equity balance of $247,000 and then the development fund. So that's supposed to be reserved money that we have of the cash on hand that we've already committed to other projects. One being the app and one being development opportunities that might arise that allow us to invest in development projects that could be improving reports, other types of opportunities. If you've been with Missouri Evergreen, we use that money to pay for the simple reporter development. So it just allows us to have money set aside in the event that an opportunity arises that we could invest in improving Missouri Evergreen across the board for all members. I anticipate that if we look at the budget versus actuals for the full fiscal year, so we'll skip over the month of July and go straight to year to date. You'll see that we're still waiting for the final payment on the grant line 4001. We're still waiting for that last payment of $42,000. And if you look a couple lines above that 4004, the Marchive dues, just a reminder that we'll be sending out Marchive bills August 31st. So that's a cost sharing formula. we wait until we have the final bill for the year. And then we use a formula based on circulation to bill members. And so you'll be billed for the full FY 2024 year. That bill will come out the end of August. And so far we've spent about $16,000 in Marchive. So what I'm trying to say here is we still have revenue of 42,000 coming in, plus a revenue line of about 16,000. So we have about $58,000 in revenue for FY 24 that we're still waiting to receive. If we go down to the expense lines, there's a couple expense lines that are over a little bit. One of those being 5411, and that's based on us investing in that new platform that we're going to expand in. I think it's pronounced, is it Odoo? I never know how to pronounce it. We invested in that to run the Missouri Evergreen Conference and to run cataloging recertifications, and it's worked really, really well. So we hope in 2025, we are going to expand that and have 3 seats that can be used by the Missouri Evergreen Director, Missouri Evergreen Cataloger, and the Missouri Evergreen Migration Specialist in order to run the refresher training that the CAN committee is going to undertake. So that line's been adjusted in the 2025 budget. The other line you see running over just a little bit is 5625. And that's based on taking on more projects that we needed the migration specialist to be involved in. So it was just a little bit higher than we had anticipated for the year, but that's a good thing because that means we're moving forward. We have way more new members than we anticipated when we started the budget in FY 2024, and that's all good news. So if we go all the way down to the net income line, the net revenue line, you'll see right now that says a negative $3,000. That's because we're still waiting on that $58,000 in revenue to come in. I think what will end is with a net positive revenue position of around 40,000. So where you see our budget, our balance sheet saying $261,000 cash on hand, I think when we wrap up the fiscal year and receive that final grant payment, that final fiscal year financial report from Amigos will show a balance sheet cash on hand balance of about $300,000. And that's how we'll enter FY 2025 on September 1st. Questions about that?
Just a reminder, Shannon, Keith from Amigos is on the call. So if you need to lean on him, or Keith, if you have anything you need to add, please feel free.
Katie asked, do we know what notifications message fee will make? Katie, I think they'll make all the SMS notifications Missouri Evergreen currently has in place, but they're going to do it through a different technology in order to improve the success rate in which patrons will be able to receive those texts. So your holds ready for pickup, due date notifications, overdue notifications, any SMS notices that you've set up for Kate through Equinox will deliver through the message B system. Any other questions in the chat that I missed?
Thank you, Shannon. You're so smart. I love listening to you.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I'm so grateful that you're doing it.
Oh, thank you. I'll have to say, don't look at the man behind the curtain because Steve tells me what to say.
Well, thank you so much for that report. We are going to go through the committee reports now, starting with cataloging and Kate.
Morning, everybody. I don't have anything to add to my written report, but I did want to highlight just a couple things. We do have two new committee members, Karen Young from Kirkwood. So she is one of the new MLC catalogers coming in. She has joined our cataloging committee and she is a well-established cataloger and we are super happy to have her. Same with Sarah Llewellyn, who is Cass County's cataloger and technical services manager, I believe. So we welcome them. Let's see. We, in the cataloging meeting last month, we shared that the state library has purchased WebDewey for all of the committee members. So if you previously, if you have had a question about assigning a Dewey number, your course of action was to ask Liz. And that course of action is still definitely there, but all committee members now have access to WebDewey. So if you're not getting an answer quickly, then hopefully someone else will pop in and give you the answer. But we all do have access to that, and the point of that is for us to help anybody that's having trouble assigning Dewey numbers. And then, sorry, there was one last thing I thought. I think that's it for me. I'm gonna have Liz update you on all of the great stuff she's been doing.
Okay, so Kate wanted me to give a rundown of what I've been up to. So I have been, of course, attending all the MLC and Sarcoxy migration meetings. I'll be going to the meetings that MLC will be having for their training, their in-person training. Lots of people redoing their certification and recertification. So if you are up for that, tell them to expect an email from me. Of course, updating crib sheets. Every month things keep getting added to the crib sheets. So foreign language has been included now. I think a reader went in. So checking your crib sheets. And of course, always cataloging, cleanup, and then various projects. So that's what I've been up to.
I remembered the other thing that I was going to add, which was please, anybody on the call that is checks your own library's contacts for your libraries. If you please make sure that your cataloging contacts are up to date. And if anybody has any questions, Liz and I are here.
Thank you,
Kate.
Kate.
Kate,
Go ahead.
one other thing maybe to share is how we've been working on the monthly reports to fine tune those.
Yes, that is a good point, Ron. So the committee members met and we were all assigned those monthly cataloging reports that we get from Evergreen. There are a handful of them, and these are fantastic reports to help libraries help us get the catalog under control. However, they are certainly not perfect. So we all went through them and we were looking for things that didn't work as expected, things that we wish worked better, and things that were information that just was not necessary. And what we're going to do is, Liz is putting all of that information together. We are going to be getting a quote from Rogan at Equinox, and then potentially bringing something to the board to see if we can pay for a project, because these reports that we get every month are vital for our catalog and our catalogers. And if we can get them hopefully to work just that much better, then we can get even more participation in libraries fixing their items.
Great. Thank you. All right, Rhonda in circulation.
Good morning. I also do not have much more than what was on the committee report, but I do want to remind you, this is the first reminder, start thinking about and planning for, I guess you would say, the second annual Deleting and Purge project. So those, patrons who have expired for 3 years, there is a report to run. Instructions are included in the report that I sent, or at least it tells you how to get to those. Your deleting process should be done by December 31st, and then Equinox in January will actually do the purging. And so if you are a library that joined in this year, MEC, and have not done that, if you have questions, feel free to contact me and I can walk you through that process. When you first look at it, it seems a little daunting, but it really wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be last year. So the other thing I wanted to bring you to your attention is that Equinox has requested that each of our libraries make an effort to renew staff accounts so that you don't come in one day and your staff member is locked out. Equinox can fix it, but they are requesting that we take steps as individual libraries to make sure that doesn't happen. So they gave us, well, we came up with 3 possibilities that you could do to prevent your staff accounts from becoming locked or expired. Number 1, make sure there's an email associated with each of your staff accounts because it will shoot you a reminder. You might want to consider sending it to an email account that doesn't expire or is not likely to expire. Maybe your tech services account or your director, if you have like a director at this library account, consider using that as your email. Number 2, they suggested was to consider staggering expiration dates of staff accounts so that everybody doesn't expire on the same day. So that's number 2. The other one was set a reminder on your calendar on your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you use to remind you to update those staff accounts. So I included at the end of the report the updated section on courier that has been added to the materials best handling practices, and we will look forward to seeing you all on August 27th at 11 at the next committee meeting. That's it.
And Liz just said you must renew the staff accounts in your test server also.
Yes,
So thank
very
you, Liz.
important because I have a lot of people emailing me about why they can't get in, and those expire also. They generally have the same dates as the account in the regular server. So make sure you're doing both.
Great, thank you. All right, Leanne, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Awesome.
All right. I don't have a whole lot to add. I was going to just go over a few things we discussed at our last meeting. We are planning to work on mentor training in 5 regional sessions across the state in maybe February or March. And we may have the online option for those that can't attend in person. Then we are looking at the first phase of the Missouri Evergreen Refresh. That's going to be a 3-part refresher course for staff that works with Missouri Evergreen Libraries in November. We're looking at 5 locations similar to the cataloging training offered by Liz. And then let's see, Lena Hernandez, who's been doing the training for migrating libraries, she helped develop a package of onboarding reports that we can share out that will be helpful for libraries to have kind of consistent reporting as far as statistics go. And that'll be incorporated into the mentor training as well. So they'll make sure that they have that. And that's about all I had. If you guys have any questions.
Lena is such a good trainer.
She is. Yeah, she's
very,
wonderful.
very good. Yes, very impressive. Okay, Tony.
I am here.
I know.
Not a ton to report. As we had already discussed earlier, I did come up with a report for transits that got quite a bit of discussion at the time. And it's a good report, but like they said, go ahead and keep counting. I'm really pleased with what Equinox has done with their work on report latency. I'm sure most of you know that used to be you can only run 2 ports at a time through the system. They've gone up to 3 now. I'd like it to be more, but 3 is nice. And they're working on monitoring processes. I haven't heard too much about report problems or reports not running in a timely manner since then. So I'm hoping, crossing fingers, that that wonderful work that they did in Steve did and everyone was doing on that will stick. And that's about it. If there's any questions.
These were all great committee reports. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for any of them before we move on? Well, great. Thank you guys all. Jane, are you here from Mala? Mala.
Having muting problems, sorry.
There you are.
I am here. Yes, hello. I'm going to go over first what we have coming up for our webinars. We took off the summer and then we'll end with all the any questions about, I know, our new reports and give you a little update on Sarcoxy. So we have a good one coming up next week called Eat, Play, Read. It's from Independence, Kansas. They had done a gardening initiative to kind of, a lot of schools are doing that and a lot of libraries are, but their program is really interesting and seems like it could be really easily adapted to libraries of various sizes, which is what we're kind of always looking for when we're doing programs, because all of the libraries we serve vary from very tiny to pretty large. So this one looks great. So that is next, it's the 13th, which I think is Tuesday at 10. So still plenty of time to sign up. We'll close it. We usually close registration the day before. Then we're following that up on August 22nd at 2 with a programming for teens, understanding teen needs through a holistic perspective. And so it's going to, they've discussing like all the different developments through the teen years from, pretty young to a little later, and how to adapt that into a programming model. So we're looking forward to that. We usually get quite a good turnout for our teen programs because a lot of people, sometimes they just get thrust into that, oh, you're the teen librarian, or you're going to do stuff with teens without a lot of background. So this will be a great one. September brings us back to our favorite Readers Advisory Group, and they're going to do a topic on building a culture around books and reading in your library. We love working with them. There's like 7 or 8 of them, and it varies who's doing it that time. And if you sign up, when you sign up, you'll get an email from them. They try to base it on what the people who are participating actually are interested in talking about. So that's really great. That's September 12th at 2. And our last one on the calendar for September is Reducing Social Isolation in Seniors, Connection Through Technology. And this is Decatur, Illinois Library did a grant, I think it was with their Illinois Department of Aging, to provide free tablets to their senior community, or a portion of their senior community. So that is September 17th at 10 a.m. Make sure, we had this question come up just like a couple times in just the last week or two. Make sure you're always using the current labels maker that's on our website. Some folks download the label maker to their desktop, and then that doesn't get updated. And so that's where sometimes we have issues sending it to the wrong location, because sometimes the warehouses will change routes and they'll just change, like they used to come out of Kansas City and now they're going to come out of Joplin, or vice versa, or Springfield and Columbia. So the current one always is the one to use. So that is always found on our website. So the current one right now is volume 48. So the new counts that we're taking, as asked by the state library, causing a little bit of some confusion. Lots of you are getting it. Lots of you are just like, what's happening? So I wanted to give just a tiny tip, because most of our questions are, I don't even know what this is. Like, they're just like, we don't really know what this Moby is, what's Kokomo. So if you have never gone to another label maker and had to do something different with your books, you're not using any of those other delivery systems. If you are just, going to the Mala label maker and making your labels and sending them out in the bags or totes, that's the number, and you don't need to worry about those other ones, because all of the other three require an extra step. You have to go to a different label maker. You have to do some things with the drop down. The label looks different. Sometimes there's different instructions on how to bundle it. So that's a quick way of knowing, like, oh, I just get a 0, because we've had, like, we do, I don't know, this is why we don't know what the answer is. We don't do nearly the numbers of these other deliveries as we do with Mala. And we had some libraries reporting, oh, I do 400 and I do 400 Kokomo. And that seems highly unlikely because the Kokomo ones are ones going to Colorado. So we are working through it all. Everyone's been great. People have called us with questions. People have emailed. People have put it on the form of questions. We have noticed weird oddities and called back to the libraries and said, hey, let's walk you through this. So we're making a ton of progress. So don't be alarmed if you get a little notice from us, a call or an email, because we're just trying to, this first month or two, we're just trying to work out all the kinks. And I'd say by far the majority have done a great job. So again, don't worry if you're having trouble. Yes, Jake just said, yes, I'm surprised they did that. We just sent them a correction yesterday, Jake, about a new label, and looks like they're already on to 49. So perfect. Yeah, so that's the kind of things. We have a library that no longer is eligible for Mala services. And so we had notified Henry yesterday afternoon. So it looks like they just updated it. So we're on to 49. Thanks, Jake. Sarcoxy had their first delivery yesterday. They got their bins and totes and stuff from us. I think there was a little misunderstanding on the Sarcoxy folks that, you know, all the drivers are very different. We don't control who they hire as drivers. We don't control their customer service skills. We don't control any of that. So I think they had a little higher expectation that their driver was going to come in introducing themselves, being chatty and friendly, and this driver wasn't. And the drivers don't always even know, they know they work for a contractor who works for Henry, who we contract with. So they're identifying themselves as Mala couriers. So there was a misunderstanding there. But what the person didn't do, and they also might have been a new driver, who knows, they probably didn't know Sarcoxy hadn't had service before. And then the driver didn't pick up the items. So they're coming back today or tomorrow. We're still in negotiation with what their routes are. So we reached out to Teresa, let her know, you know, here's the form you do. The driver, you know, you just need to talk to the driver. The driver is probably not going to initiate necessarily a conversation with you. They've got a huge all day long route. They're kind of in and out is their goal. So just remember, if you have questions about what your driver's doing, we had another library who's added a day or two. All of a sudden their driver time changed. So we worked through that. The driver time shouldn't change, but every once in a while, you know, the route changes for them that day. There's a road out, there's a bridge out, they have to go a different way. So sometimes they are going to come at a different time. Just, you know, say, hey, this isn't your normal time, what's up? And usually they'll tell you, and often they'll tell you all kinds of things. So, you know, many of them not true, but many sometimes true. I did want to share, if you were at the MPLD meeting the other day, I shared it then. Last year, 23, you all did 1,093,188 items were circulated in the state. So that is awesome resource sharing. This year, it was 1,185,374 items. So up 92,186 items. So give yourselves a huge round of applause with your resource sharing. Evergreen and the rest of the state does an excellent job. We have a lot of items moving all the time, all around. I don't know anything about Evergreen reports. I never worked at an evergreen library. So your folks are the better choice, Tony and everybody on the committee, of what is the best way to count things. What we want counted is things that are leaving your library, whether they're going back to the library that you borrowed them from or that you're sending out to a library to use. And that way we get it counted, so we get this full view of how many items are going out. So I know we've had questions about that. It seems to have calmed down since spring. If Tony's got a one that you all think ends up working fine and is the same as the count, then that's fine with us. We just want it to be consistent year to year, because as you see, we keep track of it over the years. And so when evergreen libraries are added, you're our biggest source of increases. Other libraries kind of tend to do the same every year because they don't have the access to new things that when you join evergreen you have. So it's important to be super similar in your, like, you don't want to be like, oh, now all of a sudden I'm like doing half of what I did, because you're probably not doing half of what you did. Your evergreen libraries are usually doing the same amount or more year to year. So questions? I know you have some. Okay.
Well, thank you,
Well,
Jane. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
You know how to find us. Everything, just if you ever have a problem, just reach out to Katrina or I. Marcy's also helpful. I think we got everybody's agreements, and if we didn't get your money by August 1st, Marcy has already reached out to you. So
Great. Thank
Thanks.
you. The lovely Rachel has reminded me that if you're a little late arriving, please put your name and your library name in the chat so that the secretary knows you're here today. So thank you for that reminder. Okay, we're moving on to the state library, and I know Janet is with us.
Yes. Hello, everyone. So I want to thank the staff at Neosho Newton and Barry Lawrence and maybe some others in the area for helping Sarcoxy with their career issues. I know Teresa reached out to some of you directly, like, what do I do? So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Also want to say thank you to the libraries that are doing the testing of courier counts between the reports and hand counting. And thank you for your patience of us adding the new counts for the courier connectors. And if you have questions, keep calling MALA staff and they'll help you with what you need to know. But those counts will really help us of knowing what we need to spend for and how many days to go to our other connectors. So some announcements that if you attended the forum this Tuesday, you probably already heard, but I'm going to reiterate that. So the Tech Mini Grant will open in mid-August. The application is due October 1st. And Terry will be holding a Tech Mini Grant overview webinar on August 15th at 10 a.m. And Corey will be holding 3 webinars on the public library survey in late August and early September. And let's see, one is an introduction to the PLS. One is going to be about changes specifically about the 2024 PLS questions. And then the final one would be the results from the 2023 public library survey. So that's where he goes over, here's what we're seeing, the trends and things like that. Also, we announced that North Star digital literacy applications are being accepted during August. And the application is very simple. It's basically giving us contact information. And if your library is interested in providing North Star digital literacy, you will need to fill out that application and send it back to me. Also at the forum, Michelle Swain from Ozark Regional Library did a quick overview of how she uses it in her library. And next week on the 13th, North Star staff will be doing a webinar about the software, and an email about that went out on PubLibDir. So that. Some new stuff going on. I'm really happy to announce that the library development section of the State Library has hired a library technology specialist, Jefferson Hulbert. He will start August 16th, and he will be working on the Plowed project, so we can get moving back on that, and technology grants, and then other projects that are technology related. And I'm really excited for the Plowed to get started working on that again. We've got 2 big projects for that coming up. One we've started just Monday of this week, and I know not everybody in Missouri Evergreen members are on the Plowed website, but some of you are. So there's doing an upgrade, and we've got 4 libraries that's going, our first libraries to go upgraded, and that so far has went well. So we've got to get all our other like 36 libraries upgraded, and we have like 8 libraries without a website. We want to get them on a site, and then we can start working on new libraries into the Plowed project. Let's see. The State Library is working on our FY26 budget for the Secretary of State, and that gets all the documentation together from all of the units under the Secretary of State for them to take to legislature in January so they can start that budget process. And we're doing a lot of planning for library visits and visiting or going to regional library meetings. So if you have a regional meeting coming up, let us know. I know we've got Grand River Library Conference and maybe somewhere in Southwest. I know we're coming down Southwest at some point. We'll let you guys know. But if you have us or want us to come see your library, we'll be happy to come. That's all I have. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Janet. I appreciate that. All right, we're going to move into the fun stuff. Karen had to leave us suddenly for Florida, and that left our secretary position open in the executive board. So Terry York has graciously moved up and volunteered to be our new secretary on the executive board for the remainder of the term. And we want to thank her for being so gracious. That does open up a position on the board for member at large or whatever that position is. So I'm super excited to announce that that is not my problem. It is Ron's as past chair. So I'm going to turn this over to Ron now.
Okay. I'm trying to get my video turned on, which is really kind of redundant because Steve is showing biographies for our 3 candidates for the board. If you were at MPLD, either live or online in June, a couple of these are candidates from when we had an opening in June. But we have 3 total candidates for our open seat on the board. We really tried to come up with a balance of candidates from libraries of all sizes to make sure that all voices are being heard. So these are the 3 candidates. I believe we are going to do a live vote through a Zoom poll that Steve is going to have set up.
That is correct, Ron. Just one more technicality, any nominations from the floor. So this is actually the recommendation from the executive board and from the nominations committee, but the bylaws allow for floor nominations as well. And if we have any of those, then I can add those real quick to the poll. Otherwise, I'll launch the poll. So Carrie, if you want to do a going once, going twice, we can do
Okay.
that.
Yes, if anybody's willing to serve on the board and would like to, speak now. Okay, going once, going twice. All right, I think you are, I'm looking on there on the chat too. Oh, beautiful, look how exciting. All right, so here we go, start voting. Submit. That was fun. I feel so 21st century.
I feel
mean,
like the Jeopardy music should be playing.
I
while
know,
we
that was
wait.
so do. That
Yeah,
was
sorry,
so,
I'll do that next time. I'll do that next time.
that was so fun. I love it. And I'll shut up.
No, keep talking. We've got to fill the
Well,
void.
what I want to say is, as we grow as a consortium, we're probably going to add more seats to the board someday anyway. So it's not hopeless, like, well, I'll never get on the board. You probably will. So, and I want to thank all these people who are willing to be on the board, whether you're on now or not. Thank you so, so much for being willing to do it. Because usually it's like pulling teeth. I said yes to this because, as you know, you don't say no to Sue. We've all decided you don't say no. And very likely, Steve Campbell, we're going to be deciding that soon at the executive board, because I think it's time to grow the board. And that's my opinion, grow the board to reflect the size that we're becoming. But that's just my opinion. But thank you all. That's amazing.
In terms of governance, I agree with you, Carrie. I mean, I think a lot of you know this, that I did the library thing and all those credentials, but my master's in public administration focuses on nonprofit management. And certainly as you're looking at what we have and what we are as a consortium, it makes sense to expand the board. Now, I don't think whether it's 2 seats or whether it's 4 seats or whether it's 1 seat, who knows, but we're too small. There's no doubt about that. So, Carrie, the poll has been open for 2 minutes and 5 seconds, and it feels like we've slowed down. We have 86% participation. And so, it's your call to close the poll if that's what you want to do.
5, 4, it's really not that hard. Just push a button and hit submit. 3, 2, 1, you had your chance, you missed it. Closed.
So according to what I have, the final results make Jake Johnson the new board member with 38% of the vote, and Steve Campbell and Rebecca Buckley both tied with 31%.
That was close, you guys. Congratulations. Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's fantastic. And like I said, since this was practically a 3-way tie, please keep your options open, because during my reign, I really would like to increase the size of the board. I think it's appropriate. So please be willing to do, and that goes for the rest of you too. Be willing to serve. And all right, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Ron, for all of your hard work on that too. So that was great. Other items, I have none.
I know of nothing additional.
Okay. So thank you all for your great attention today. And we actually in Southwest Missouri just got a tiny bit of rain. It's been the most exciting thing we've had in like forever. So it's been a great morning. You guys have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all later. Go ahead.
We need to formally
Oh, we have to adjourn.
Yes.
Would anyone like to adjourn it? Because I'm already out of here, apparently.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, let's see. I saw Jake talking someone else. It was Jake.
Me. It was Sean Long from St. John
Hi,
County.
Sean. Thank you, Sean. All right.
Yep, it's working. It's
Making it, okay? We're making it.
That was a first and a second, so we're doing it. All right. I feel like we're adjourned now, so everybody goodbye.
Thanks.